It seems like everyone today has a camera phone. Have you ever noticed on a clear night when the moon rises, it looks so good that you want to take a picture of it? You take your camera phone out, you point it at the moon, hit the shutter button, you hear the click, and then you rush to see what the image looks like, and you're disappointed. Because all you see is a white dot. No detail, just blurred out and out of focus. It's no surprise. Although mobile phone technology has made tremendous strides in the last several decades, it is just not capable of capturing the type of images that a digital SLR or a DSLR or a telescope can achieve. So how can you improve your photo game so you can take clear, text-sharp images of the moon? Let me share with you 5 tips that I used in order to improve my photo game so that you can go from this to this. Hi, I'm Arthur, and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't done so already, please consider clicking the like and subscribe button, especially if you find this video interesting. It does help with the growth of my channel and further content as I publish it. So on to the 5 tips on how I improved my photography of the moon. The first tip is to have a sturdy tripod. When I started to focus on photography of the moon, all I had was this lightweight travel tripod. Of course, it was the only one that I could afford at the time. However, I realized that although lightweight, it was not sturdy enough to stand against the gust of winds or any of the elements that I experienced. Eventually, I added sturdier carbon fiber tripods that were lighter but were strong enough to be able to withstand the elements. As you can see here, it provides a strong base for the lens and the camera, or the weight of the lens and the camera. So let's segue to tip number 2. Use a DSLR, or a digital single lens reflex camera. As mentioned at the start, a DSLR can help you capture an image of the moon in much more detail due to the fact that you have the capability of manually controlling the ISO, or the amplification of light, the aperture, which is how much light to let in, and how fast the camera sensor captures that light. So being able to manually control that gives you the ability to get sharper, get more detail, because the moon is a reflection of the sunlight. So there's a lot of light, just as we saw earlier on in that Apple camera. The white dot has no detail. It's just a blob of white on that lens. One of the other capabilities that newer cameras have is to have continuous focus on the moon. When you start taking pictures of the moon travels at such a quick speed through the sky, because it is over 200,000 miles away from the Earth. So as it travels, the distance between the Earth and the moon changes continuously. So if your camera cannot do so, you have to continuously change the focus or to adjust the focus in order for it to be sharp. Newer cameras, because of that continuous focus capability, can handle that for you. You can go ahead and just designate a spot in the moon. The camera then will lock in on that position, and as you take pictures throughout the night, the moon will stay in focus. So again, use a digital single lens reflex camera. So tip number 3, use a cable release. A cable release allows you to minimize contact with the tripod, lens, or camera, therefore minimizing shake and possible blurry images of the moon. Now, other cameras, newer cameras, give the ability for a user to use their phone via Wi-Fi and then be able to take the picture using the phone. Some have a physical switch that you can actually click remotely and then be able to take that picture. So either way, what you're doing is minimizing physical contact with the camera itself. So again, use a cable release. Tip number 4, the telephoto lens. The lens is a huge, important part of the ability to capture a sharp image of the moon. Camera phone lenses are usually under 24 millimeters, so it's not strong enough to capture details of the moon. It's not close enough in order to capture that, to be able to determine focus of the moon. To take detailed pictures of the moon, you need to at least to have a lens that is above 200 millimeters. Just like this 70-200 Canon telephoto lens. This was my first telephoto lens that I used. It did the job. However, in picture, the moon was not big enough in order to determine sharp focus. So, yes, I captured the moon, but I would have to do a lot of post-editing in Photoshop in order to magnify the picture of the moon. Now, new cameras have kit lenses that come with it. Those are not necessarily strong. Usually it's a 70 to 100 or 105 lens. It does the job, but it's still, again, not strong enough to be able to get close enough to the moon. So, how can you improve that? I used extenders. Extenders are multipliers that adapt to both the lens and the camera by 1.4 strength or twice. So you would change a 24 millimeter lens to a 48 or a 70-200 into 140 to 400 millimeter lens. As much as it sounds good, extenders reduce the sharpness of the image, and usually that's still not good enough in order to get tack sharp images of the moon. So eventually I settled on the Sigma 150 to 600 millimeter lens. This is what I call my telescopic turret. It is strong enough to be able to close to at its full 600 millimeter length. In camera, the image of the moon is pretty big. Therefore, with the magnifier in camera itself, you can get close enough to determine tack sharp images of the moon. I also, at one time, used my astrophotography lens that you see here behind me. Now that's usually for deep sky objects. It does work for the moon, but the moon, this telescopic lens does not come with autofocus or the ability to, and it's pretty heavy, so that usually adds additional weight to your overall camera load. But I find that the Sigma 150-600, my telescopic turret, more than adequate enough to capture that image. Tip number 5, research. Just like in any photography, you need to know your surroundings in order to compose the best image. Knowing your location, knowing the environment, knowing how much light you're going to get. Research or scouting. There are many YouTubers out there that cover in greater detail the understanding and the mechanics of the moon. But I will cover what research that I used, or what I use in order to take a picture of the moon. I started with scouring the internet for information on the moon itself. I've learned that where it rises, where it sets, what time it rises, what time it sets, as well as the different phases throughout the month. Now, I also discovered mobile apps such as Stellarium, SkyGuide, Moon Pro, and PhotoPills. All these mobile apps, in and by itself, are more than enough in order for you to understand when the moon is going to be rising, when it's going to be traveling, where it's going to be traveling, and then be able to understand the percentage of how much light you're going to get or you're going to see. Educate yourself on the phases of the moon. As we know, there are terms such as new moon, quarter moon, the more known full moon itself, and of course the supermoon. Know when the moon rises, because by capturing the moon early in it when it rises, you can capture that yellowish hue that is reflected upon its face, that it looks yellow. But then, as it rises throughout the night, it becomes white because it's reflecting more and more of the sunlight. By understanding the phases, you know exactly what percentage that night the moon is going to be revealing itself. And also terminology such as waxing crescent, waning crescent, waxing gibbous, waning gibbous. So all these terms, all these parts of the phases of the moon allows you to see and understand what type of light you're going to get that night and what image. Also know when the moon rises. Sometimes as it gets later into its cycle, the moon rises close to around 3 o'clock in the morning. So you're going to have to set your clock in order to capture that image. So that is the 5 tips that I use in order to improve my photography of the moon. It's important to understand all of that so that you do not miss an opportunity to take the image of the moon. If you haven't done so already, please click the like and subscribe below in the video. It helps with the growth of the channel, as well as click the notification bell so you'll be notified when I publish more photography content on this channel. Have a good day. Improve your photography and clear skies.